Okay, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Sasquatch Out of the Shadows Live. I'm your host, Alexander Pedikov. We have a great show this week with John Wilk and Dave McCullough of Squatchachusetts, two really good buddies of mine here in New England. They're fantastic, and we'll get a little bit more into that. But just a couple announcements. If you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, feel free to check them out. We had a great show with Steve Kulls last week. If you want to see more shows like this, subscribe. Next week, we're having Cliff Barrickman Finding Bigfoot on, so that'll be a great show. And you can watch a playlist with all the rest of the episodes on the channel as well. Lions of the East, I still have a few DVDs left, so if you're interested in that, my documentary about mountain lions in New England and mystery big cats, check that out on Kickstarter. We have 9 days left. We're already above our stretch goal, and this is again Chasing Legends, the series where myself and Nash Hoover and our crew, we're going to be investigating some cryptids around the country. So we have 9 days left on the Kickstarter, and we're already ahead of the goal. So if you want to support us, check us out there. As I mentioned, tonight's guests are Jonathan Wilk and Dave McCullough. They're both Bigfoot researchers from Massachusetts. John was a park ranger at a state park in western Massachusetts in the 1990s and had 2 Sasquatch sightings there. And Dave began researching the phenomena in Whitehall, New York in the early 2000s. Whitehall, we talked about last week with Steve. Both John and Dave are founding members of the Massachusetts-based Sasquatch research team, cleverly named Squatchachusetts. With their team and individually, they have collected dozens of reports from the woods of Massachusetts, followed up reports, investigated, scouted locations across the state and other areas of New England. So without further ado, let's bring John and Dave in the program. How you guys doing?
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Hello.
We're like this is like a cult over here. We all have the shirts going on.
I would have changed.
It's my favorite shirt. Design. It's awesome. But how you guys both doing tonight?
John?
I'm good.
Good, very good.
Awesome.
All the craziness.
Yeah. I hope you're staying safe. Hope everyone else is staying safe and listening to the program as well. We're really excited to have you guys on. I've known you guys for a number of years here. I think you're probably one of the best Sasquatch groups in New England by far. You have some really awesome reports. I obviously read a little bit about your bio, but maybe let's go a little bit into what kind of got you into it a bit. John, would you want to start us off with talking a little bit about what started you down this path, basically?
Well, it's been a long journey, that's for sure. Back in the early 80s, when I was a young teen, I was friends with a lot of politically connected people, and I got a nice little state park job out of that, and became really involved with the outdoors and working at the parks, and built up a little bit of seniority and became a ranger up in Savoy State Forest, which is northern Berkshires. The Berkshires are part of western Massachusetts near the New York-Vermont line. So one particular night back in '92, I was out patrolling one of the outlying boundaries, and when I got out of my truck to check on something, this creature came out of the woods, ran in front of the truck, grabbed a bag of garbage, and ran around the side of the truck. That's the Reader's Digest version of it. When I went to hop in the truck, I turned around and noticed there was a much bigger creature standing behind the truck and let out this gorilla type roar. It was like a lion and a gorilla combined, and I had all I could do to hop into the truck and get out of there. And that's just kind of the short version of the story. That really impacted me from continuing to work up there. It was a great job. It was only seasonal, so you really couldn't depend on getting hired back every year. And I found that I just didn't really want to engage in anything up there anymore, especially at night. When I brought it to the attention of a few other people that worked up there, they're like, "Oh yeah, we're aware of that. There's a file that exists up there." Actually, Dave and I were just up there this past winter, and we stopped up at the headquarters, and I was talking with a couple of the new employees, and they had heard other encounters up there too, but they also, they verified the existence of the file that exists up there that's full of all kinds of interesting phenomena, from anything from UFOs to creatures in the woods to missing people.
Wow.
There's a couple really spectacular missing persons cases not too far from where I had my encounter, and the people still. This one particular woman, she still hasn't been found.
Wow. Do you know how far back some of the stories in the file go?
The earliest documented things in Savoy are from the 30s, from when the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, they're the
Right.
ones that were built all the state parks in Massachusetts. They actually built most of the state parks around the country. It was a post-depression thing that was started by Roosevelt to get young men, to teach them some trades, give them some discipline, put some money back into their pockets, and create these conservation areas. And
Sounds like something we could use today.
Yeah, so these are the same parks that we're using today that were built back in the 30s. There was one particular log entry that I found doing my research from, hey, Josh, how are you? There was a note from a captain from the CCC. He was an Army Corps of Engineers commissioned captain. He wrote in the journal something to the effect of Robin Rich, I think that was her name, went down to Bayness Road to do a guardrail installation. Won't go back to finish guardrail. They saw, 8-foot tall ape man.
Wow.
And they won't go back to finish the guardrail. So this was like 1932, before any Sasquatch phenomena was running rampant around the country. And
Right.
one of the earliest recorded sightings in the United States was right in North Adams, Massachusetts, the next town over from Savoy. It was a selectman and a constable back in the 1800s saw a wild man while they were deer hunting.
Yeah. Wow.
So Massachusetts has a really, really rich history of Sasquatch sightings.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're getting some fantastic feedback from the comments. Lots of people from all over the place. We've got Cape Cod, England, Ontario, Canada, South Africa, Massachusetts, Maryland, all over the place. But so Dave, as I read in the intro there, you got interested, or I guess started out with this phenomena in Whitehall, which is obviously a really interesting area. Do you want to talk a little bit about what got you interested in the subject and how you ended up in Whitehall?
Yeah, sure. I've had a lifelong interest in it, going way back to being a kid and seeing the old Legends of Boggy Creek, in search of, just hooked on those. And then the 90s, really reading all the reports on the internet, on all the sites, all the different research groups. And then I went on a BFR road trip to Whitehall in 2005. And just reading the history of that, so much happening up there. That was a good way to get my feet wet and somehow go outside of reading reports to wanting to get involved with it somehow. Just wanting to see it, actually.
Yeah, that's awesome. Was there anything like when on that initial expedition in Whitehall that got you like really hooked, or like your first kind of expedition into it?
Yeah, it was my first. Like, I was green with everything. I had never went camping out in the woods at all. More city guy, and it was an experience. And then seeing an orb out in the woods, nothing Bigfoot related, but that really got me to want to get out even more, because I totally didn't expect that. And me and another guy were out, and he saw it, and so
Wow.
pretty much confirmed it for me. And knowing that there's other things, I'm not saying that was Bigfoot related at all, but it was in a spot where there was recent sightings. Got a lot of information. I got to know Paul Bartholomew on that trip, and I've had a long friendship with him since. Still go out there maybe once or twice a year. A lot of good information. I don't know if anyone's ever read his book, but covers
Fantastic.
the New York, Vermont area. Excellent incidents up there. Really credible incidents too. Before that, it was I always thought it was a West Coast thing. That's when I really got involved, when I read the Whitehall stories and the police involved, and I just got the bug, and then saw the report on the BFRO for the trip and jumped in.
That's awesome.
Into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, what a way to get into it. Yeah, Paul's book, if those who haven't read it, I think it's Bigfoot Encounters in New York and New England or something like that.
And not to give him a shameless plug, but Monsters of the North Woods was his first one. That really got me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to have him on the show, I think, in July or August. He's slated to be on. So I'm really excited for
That'd
that.
be a great guest to have on. Paul's been really good to us. Anytime he gets anything from New England, he always sends me a copy of something in the mail. I love getting mail from Paul because I know when I open it up, I'm like a little, it's like getting a package from Amazon. You're like, ooh, what's in here? You open it up, and it's either something Red Sox related or it's something Bigfoot related. He's been a good friend to us.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're going to be interviewing him at the end of the month here for On the Trail of Bigfoot too, up there in Whitehall. And his brother actually wrote a really interesting book on Champ that I read when I was doing a miniseries on Champ a few years ago. Really, I mean, they're both great in terms of knowing that area. And Whitehall, despite all the Bigfoot stuff, it's actually where a lot of the Champ sightings happened in the 1870s and that period, because the lake is right next to the town. So you kind of have both going on, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
But my great aunt on my mother's side lived up in Vergennes, Vermont.
Yeah.
And she claims to have had seen Champ back in the 70s. Yeah. I talked with a couple of people about it, and I think she's in the records up there as having reported it.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. You have Sasquatch sightings going on pretty much all up and down the Vermont and New York side of the lake, and then you have sightings of this creature in the water. So it's a good spot if you're into cryptids.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Massachusetts is really an active place for Sasquatch activity. They don't know the borders. They don't know that we're in Vermont or New York. Dave, what's going on there? I think Dave's phone fell over.
No,
so
I was trying to make it.
The Berkshires, the Berkshires are really a prominent area because of the woods. The Appalachian Mountains come right through the Berkshires. The Appalachian Trail comes through the Berkshires, and it intersects with the Adirondacks, the Catskills, the Green Mountains. So it really is a prime place for any type of a creature that wants to hide out. That for sure, it's a great place. I always tell people, if you want to go somewhere to have an encounter, go where you normally wouldn't go, because that's probably where you're going to have an encounter. Because it's just my personal opinion, and they really don't want anything to do with us. So when we do have encounters with them, they're quick, they're over with pretty just as fast as it happened. It's over with, and they'll let you know when they don't want you there anymore. They'll start throwing stuff at you. They'll scream at you. Once you've been screamed at by something that you don't know screamed at you, you pretty much can put two and two together on that, for sure.
Right. Yeah, we have some great questions already pouring in. So
yeah, I see that.
What we'll do first is maybe you guys could just talk a little bit about how Squatchachusetts got started. You guys have been doing it for a number of years now. What led to that happening? Because I mean, aside from having the catchiest name and the best artwork, thanks to Andy Finkel.
Andy Finkel, it's great stuff.
This one's signed. My shirt is signed by him. So
is it really? Oh, that's terrific. Yeah,
we signed it last year at the OBC when we were there.
Yeah, that was a fun road trip. Except I was horribly sick the whole time. I had the worst allergies going. That place is just horrible for allergies.
Oh, I know.
But it was still a good road trip. So Squatchachusetts was just a brain trust of mine that I had met some people. We started doing a few outings, and as most people know, anybody that's done any type of squatching, there's a lot of headbutting, and some people just don't get along with other people, and that's okay. We just decided that we needed some organization. I tried to join a group that was here in New England. They weren't really taking any new people in. I said, all right, well, let's just start something. So I had met Dave through a couple other people, and I met Dax Rushlow. And I said to Dave and Dax one day, I said, I was sitting on the couch the other day. I said, what do you think about starting a group? I said, I came up with this catchy name, Squatchachusetts. I said, I already bought the website and I went and trademarked it. And Dave's like, that's a terrific idea. He says, hey, next weekend is the Ohio Bigfoot Conference. Was it 2012, Dave? I think it was.
I think it was. Yeah.
So I look it up and it's all sold out. And I looked at the headline list. I'm like, hey, there's some pretty prominent speakers out here. Boy, that's a 11-hour drive. I'm like, the heck with it. So we had no tickets, we had no hotel, and we had very little money. And we hopped in Dax's Hummer and which gets about 6 miles to the gallon. And we drove all night out to Ohio. And that's when we started making contacts. David started something like this many years ago, and without even realizing it, by meeting a lot of prominent researchers and getting advice from them, because mentoring is really been a big part of us growing. Is having access to a lot of the prominent researchers, the scientific community that have taught us a lot of things to improve our research and to document our research. And that's sort of how Squatchachusetts got going. And along the way, we've picked up a lot of friends and a lot of interesting people. And we've certainly have contacted a lot of scientific community members who have really embraced us. I think they like the way we operate. We're very welcoming. We try to follow scientific protocol as much as citizen scientists can. And, you know, I'm looking at my stack of notebooks. I have like five field books that are full of stories, interviews, encounters. As Joe Walsh once wrote a song called Analog Man, that's me. I'm an analog man. You know, I'm not really a digital guy. So I don't have the patience or the skills to get my website up to where it really should be. So anybody out there that wants to do some data entry, I have lots of sightings that we want to get into our website to share with others, so other people can, you know, join along with us. So that's kind of how Squatchachusetts got going.
Absolutely, and I really mean it when I say that you guys are some of the best in New England. I mean, not only in terms of the data and all the recordings you've been doing, but just you're so welcoming. I remember the first time even meeting you guys, it was just we had such an awesome time.
Thanks, Alexander. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So we have some questions and comments coming in. So I will start. I'll pop them up on the screen here. So here's one from Edward Newell. He says, I've been section hiking the Appalachian Trail in New England, and I'm in Massachusetts now, Jug End, Great Barrington.
Yeah, I know where he is. Yeah. Yeah, so he's heading up towards Lee right now. There's a beast of Egremont that was back in the 20s and 30s that was seen often down in the Great Barrington Egremont area, and that's right where he is right now. It's that little corner where Connecticut, New York, and Massachusetts meet each other. And there's quite a few sightings down there. There's Beartown State Forest, and just north of there is October Mountain State Forest, where some of the most active area in Massachusetts is. There's more BFRO reports out of October Mountain than there are anywhere else in the state.
Wow.
Dave and I are also BFRO investigators for Massachusetts and Vermont, and Dave also goes up towards, with you towards New Hampshire with Jeff Shepard and Kristen. There's a couple other people up that way too. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Edward. Well, keep your eyes peeled, I guess, and good luck on your hike. As a hiker myself, that's no easy task doing parts of the Appalachian Trail. A lot of wildlife out there.
There's a shelter out there somewhere. The name grabs me. I can't remember it, but there was a gentleman there 2 years ago that was getting pine cones thrown at his shelter all night long. Wow. So that was pretty interesting. He was pretty freaked out. If it wasn't for him not wanting to leave the shelter, he said he would have took off. He felt safest there. He just built the fire up and kept the fire going all night. But he said something definitely was keeping an eye on him while he was there, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting how many encounters happen all up and down the whole Appalachian Trail. If you think about it, that's going through some of the wildest parts of the entire East Coast, from Georgia to Maine. So pretty interesting. So here's another. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just going to say, like you said, all around Lake Champlain, if you go right up the border of Mass, Vermont, New York, that whole valley right there, Connecticut River Valley, there's reports all the way to Canada on all the states. So
yeah, Steve was talking a little bit about that last week. Yeah, he was saying about just how it was interesting how they had some reports that seemed to be heavier in the summertime towards the valley, and then they'd get them more up in like the hardwood forests towards the winter as the rest of the foliage is down. It's really interesting to make those kind of observations.
Yeah, that's what all my data is pointing to. Is we're trying to find patterns in the chaos. And if we can find the right patterns, we can be there anticipating their arrival versus trying to chase them around, because you're trying to chase one of the most elusive creatures on the planet that don't want anything to do with us. So being able there to anticipate where they're going to be is certainly easier than just chasing after them, as with any wildlife.
Definitely. I think this question would be perfect for that. Raptor Crazy asks, question, do you guys get more reports where you're at in the spring and summer, or is it about the same all year long?
Dave, you want to take that? Or
I think late summer, fall, into winter seems like just a theory that's more active. Seem to see more reports, not just around here, but a lot of states, a lot of parts of the country. It seems like fall into the winter, although there's sightings in the winter too. Actually, there's sightings year round, but my personal opinion would be late summer into fall.
Yeah, I think that's a really tough question, because how are we getting these reports? We're getting these reports from people who are out there. So basically, these, if the tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, does it make a noise? That kind of a thing. So, the reports are coming in when the people are seeing them. So the data is, it's hard to call it scientific data when there's no control subjects. You know what I mean? We don't have people in the woods at a certain period of time to say, okay, this is an unremarkable time or this is a remarkable time. So it's hard. All we're getting is raw data of people that are out there saying, well, geez, I happen to be out in the woods in April. Well, so we can say, yeah, there's a lot of sightings in April. Well, nobody might be in the woods in March because it's too cold out, but the sightings could still be there if somebody was there. So that's a really tough question to say. All of our data reports to just constant activity. There's just constant activity. So do they migrate? That would only be speculation, because we just don't know. There's not enough data for it, until we can get more data and somebody, doing a Jane Goodall type of a lifestyle study. How do everything we say is purely speculation. I like to speculate a lot, though, because when you take a whole bunch of stuff that's constantly coming up the same.
Bless you, Dave.
Yeah, bless you, Dave. Sooner or later,
Thank you.
all of those points are going to add up to something. A lot of maybes add up to a probability.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
No,
definitely. Those are Matt Moneymaker's words. Those aren't mine. So
I think it's interesting because they ask questions like that. Nothing wrong with a question like that, of course, but people have to remember that a lot of research is done on spare time. It's not like somebody's it's not your full-time job to be out there hunting Sasquatch. I'm sure a lot of people would love that, but it's most people don't believe it even exists. So it's you're searching for something that most society writes off wholesale. So it definitely is not as a clean cut, but this is another one of those loaded questions, but I do like it. So what's the best evidence Dave and John believe? So pretty broad question.
Well, some of the strongest evidence out there is the witness reports in Massachusetts. We don't have a lot of tracks because the topography here in Massachusetts is just inches and inches, sometimes feet of duff, pine needles, and layers of leaves and moss that just don't give up a lot of evidence. We've casted quite a few suspected tracks over the years, and what you end up with is just kind of a glob of plaster that might have a few toes in it or something. So it's really hard to collect that type of evidence. I have some pretty good audio evidence that one of my favorite audio collections, you can find it on Cliff's North American Bigfoot. It's called the New England Knocks video. I recorded that about 5 years ago, where I was regularly having interactions with what I suspect were 3 different Sasquatches, because I was getting knocks from 3 different locations. I would leave things behind. There would be things there in return for the food that I left. So I would leave some sandwiches, those little Uncrustable peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
I love those.
Yeah, they're terrific. Well, I volunteered at the food bank for quite a bit, and if they were expired, they couldn't give them away, so they throw them in the dumpster. I'm like, oh no, my neighbor has a farm, and I need those. I'll feed them to the animals. But I actually would put them out in the woods, and when I would leave them there, rocks would appear back where the sandwiches were. So for a long time, I was doing that, but things were getting a little intense, and I stopped doing it. And I think I upset whatever was leaving the rocks behind, because they got a little whatever it was got aggressive, and they would break trees off. And but there's a really good video or audio on there. It's called New England Knocks. If anybody wants to look that up, it's on Cliff Barackman's page. Once our website's back up, I'll put that back up there. So we do have some good audio. Dave has a great audio from New York that he's got a growl, which is pretty terrifying when you listen to it. And we've had numerous encounters up in the Berkshires, where suspected encounters, where we've gotten some really good audio, either whoops or wood knocks. And could it be somebody messing with us? Possibly. It could be anything. We're out there looking for Bigfoot. Somebody else could be out there too that we don't know about. We don't usually advertise where we're going to try to keep the integrity of our sites, but we always welcome people to come along with us. So to answer that guy's question, we have some good audio and some pretty mediocre casts, but I like the witness encounters. A lot of people say, oh, they're just stories. Well, sure, they're just stories, but Dave and I have interviewed a lot of people, and usually within 30 seconds, if you're wasting your time or not. And Cliff and Tom Yamarone and Bobo, Dr. Meldrum, they've all been very good mentors to us, and they taught us how to interview people and how to properly document these sightings and to be thorough and take your time, because sooner or later, the cream will rise to the top and the garbage will settle to the bottom. And we certainly wasted a lot of trips around. I'm sure Dave can attest to that. We've driven hours to places to get there and to be like, oh, dear God, thanks for wasting my time, But, Cliff told me to always challenge people a little bit and just, say, listen, I'm driving 2 hours on my day off to come meet you. Are you sure you want me to come meet you? And some people, they'll instantly come up with an excuse as to why they don't. Oh, never mind. Okay, thanks. So I kind of give them a chance to save face without, wasting my entire precious day off driving to Vermont to go meet with somebody who's just wasting our time. But then there's the great people who really reach out to us looking for answers that, unfortunately, we can't really provide them a lot of answers, but we can provide them with, some explanations to maybe rule out what it might have been or what it might have not been. And I know Dave and I both enjoy interviewing people because it's it's just fascinating to hear the stories.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, the interviews are so interesting. And I think that one of the questions I was asked actually kind of went well with what you were saying. Somebody asked, have you ever had any follow you home? Sounds like, John, you may resonate with that a little bit with your response there.
Yeah, it's getting a little dark. Sorry, the sun's going down here. Unfortunately, I say it unfortunately because most people will think I was very fortunate to have suspected activity on my property for a long period of time. I say suspected activity because I've never actually seen them on my property. Everything points to the fact that they were coming to the property. Everything points to these creatures were visiting here. So yeah, I can say that I encourage them to come around by leaving things. And then when I stopped leaving things got a little aggressive. There was stuff being thrown at my house. There were rocks on my roof, handprints on the side of my house, giant handprints. So I think whatever I did to discourage them from coming was a huge mistake, because I was on the verge of something really spectacular, I think, without knowing it. But when you're looking at, a pane of glass between you and a possible 8-foot tall ape creature, you kind of like draw the line. And that's kind of the way I felt like, all right, I don't want you guys coming that close anymore. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. But it's all speculation. Like I said, I never saw them. I just saw the anecdotal evidence that they were here, and, the audio, the exchanging of things, leaving sandwiches, them leaving rocks and sticks and stuff behind. So yeah, I think that I had them coming right to my house.
I think it was interesting how the one time I stayed at your house before our road trip,
yeah,
I was the only person sleeping downstairs on the couch, and everyone else was in the rooms upstairs. And it was like 2 a.m, and I heard a bunch of tapping on the side of the house. and I thought it was a pipe or something. And in the morning, I think we woke up at like 6 a.m. because we were obviously heading out. You kind of jokingly asked me, "Did you hear anything last night?" I said, "Yeah, I heard some kind of tapping." I didn't really understand until you explained to me, and then I was like, "Well, I mean, what can you say?" Like you said, it's just pure speculation, but interesting.
Right. Something was tapping on the windows, and yeah, it's sometimes it's cool, and other times you're like, oh, okay, that's enough of that, And then I noticed, the minute I started leaving the lights on outside, that they just stopped coming around. And I would do anything right now to get them to come back, because I'm more prepared to study what actually may have been going on. And I say may because it's all speculation. I'm not making any wild accusations or saying what it was. I think I know what it was, but I remember having that conversation with you. I might have even mentioned it ahead of time. I hope I didn't put it into your head. That
I honestly thought it was like a pipe, and then you told me more into detail. You might have mentioned it, but I don't really remember too much about it. But then I was kind of like, well, I mean, I just sort of disregarded it. I just went to sleep. I was like, that's weird. Thought it was a pipe, and that was it.
Yeah, I see Glenn is asking questions about Savoy. Yes, Glenn, there's a lot of sightings up there, at least 2 or 3 a year that we hear about.
We'll put that one on the screen.
Sooner or later, the website will be up, and all of those will be on there. All I ask is that if anybody goes up to any of these sites, just be respectful. Don't bother the employees up there. Please don't pester the employees. We've built a really good trusting relationship with people that work for the Commonwealth, and people don't want to be hassled with this stuff. So I'll share anything that we have with anybody. So if anybody ever wants to reach out to me about stuff in Massachusetts, and Dave is the same way, just please tread lightly. That's all we ask. Stay off of private property, but most importantly, go out and have a good time and enjoy yourself, because there isn't a single time that Dave and I don't have a good time. Well, there was that one time we got stuck. So that kind of we got pretty stuck up there in Savoy. That was a pretty lousy time, but
always good time.
Yeah, and we always welcome people. You can find us on Facebook and Squatchachusets.com. It's a horrible website. I think all that's on there is my email link right now, but our Facebook page is pretty active. We encourage anybody that wants to come out with us. We have lots of equipment. We've got some great FLIR cameras. We got some great audio equipment. We have a roof-mounted FLIR unit that is pretty impressive, that belongs to the BFRO. It's about a $15,000 camera. We call it R2D2 because it looks, but it's really noisy, but you can see about 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet with it. And it's a pretty cool little unit. We drive down the road and we FLIR down the sides of the roads and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Definitely.
You want to tell them the Quabbin story when we got pulled over by the cops?
Oh yeah, you run.
Yeah. So well, this trooper pulled us over because we were in a place we weren't supposed to be. Yeah, the state trooper, and she said, the blue lights come on, and I'm like, oh, this isn't good. Two guys up in the woods here, She's like, what are you guys doing up here? She's not supposed to be up here. It's around the Quabbin Reservoir. I said, oh, we're squatchers, and she's like, what the heck's a squatcher? And so we showed her all of our equipment, and it was about an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half later, she's still up there talking Bigfoot with us up in the middle of the woods. So we meet a lot of interesting people out there for sure.
Definitely. We got a Sasquatch Chronicle says, hello, Dave, John, and Alex, everyone in the chat.
Hello, Wes.
How you doing?
Hi, Wes.
Awesome. So yeah, we have a lot of comments and questions, so I'm going to kind of go through a little bit more here. That guy Edward, who had the Appalachian Trail story, had an interesting comment. Let me just dig it up. I think I saw a humanoid on the Appalachian Trail at the Limestone Springs Shelter in northern Connecticut. Yeah, so that's interesting area, of course.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you, Edward. If you want to reach out to me through either Facebook or through our website, Squatchachusets.com.
Yeah, I have that linked down in the description of the video, so feel free.
I'm going to turn a light on here. Hold on.
Sure.
Is that better? Or is that too
perfect.
Much? Yeah.
No, it looks good.
Okay.
So here's a good one from my friend Carrick of Crash Course Cryptozoology. He was on 2 shows ago. He always asks some great questions. Have you found yourselves convinced of any particular idea for what Sasquatch might be? A non-human primate, human branch off? I guess what you think about, what it might be.
Go ahead, Dave.
My personal opinion is it's a lineage to a human. It's an offshoot of some of the DNA that was turned in was come back as a human woman and a male unknown. And a lot of stories of Native American woman getting kidnapped. So somehow I actually think there's two types of squatches. One is more like the Patterson Gimlin film type creature, and that's my opinion that it's more human. And I think in different areas they, just going by reports, some people that saw it up close say, no, it was more like a monkey, and other people's no, it was definitely more like a human or caveman type than it would be an animal. Plus the foot tracks, the footprints, 5 toes, kind of shaped like a human, but not.
I agree.
But that's just my opinion.
Right.
I feel that they're a flesh and blood creature. What I saw that night in Savoy from 10 feet away, it was a flesh and blood hominid creature. Everything in the face indicated that it was of human descent. Everything else was of maybe, Gigantopithecus slash, kind of looked like Chaka from Land of the Lost. I know but this one was young. You could tell it was young. It had this brownish, reddish, flowing hair, almost like it was groomed. I always call it the juvenile or the teenager, because that's what it looked like to me. And it had these amber luminescent eyes that I'll never forget. They looked right through me when it turned and looked at me from across the truck. We made eye contact, and I'll never forget. It looked like a human up here, but everything else, the proportions were they just weren't there. The shoulders, the neck, the long arms, that part was gangly looking. That part didn't add up. And like the torso was independent from the legs. The best way to describe it, Bobo brought it up. He says it looked like it was riding a bike. Like you see somebody going by in a bike, the body's just sitting there, but the legs are going around and around. And that's what it looked like but the one behind me, all I got was just a dark outline of it, but it looked like an unmade bed. It was all matted down, and it I couldn't smell anything, but boy, the audio that came out of that creature, it was just huge. And the audio, I nearly, I'm surprised I didn't pee myself. It was pretty intense. That pretty much changed the course of my life, because people were making fun of me because of it. And, who wants to be called Ranger Bigfoot all the time, and I couldn't go down there anymore. To this day, I go down there with Dave all the time, and man, I get creeped right out from being down there. I snowmobile through there through the whole winter time, and I just don't go down there at night in that particular area. The chances of having an encounter there are pretty low, you would think, until 2016, when we took the BFRO up there. We had a BFRO outing. We had 15, 16 people up there, and we had another encounter less than a mile right from Tannery Falls.
Wow.
It was the middle of a thunderstorm. We were all up there, and it ran right through the trees on us. Tim Vogel actually casted 3 really good prints from that day.
I've seen those. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Oh, it's a Squatch
area.
So
they're still there. They're active there. All I ask, please, people, don't go up and bother them. Go up and enjoy them. Don't go up and harass them. If you want to have an encounter, get a hold of us. We'll help you have that encounter. It may never happen, but we can increase your odds a tiny little bit. But please, don't go up and harass these amazing creatures. You might get what you asked for. You might end up, with an experience that's not so pleasurable.
Yeah, definitely. Max says, John, side note, you have the best microphone yet on Alex's show.
You know why? The Yeti. It was on sale at Target for $30.
Yeah, because he's got the Yeti. That's why I'm going to get one of those. The gaming headset, it's got its limitations. But here's an interesting one. Any ideas on what a Bigfoot's lifespan is?
Dave?
I'd go back to the human age. I think they're like people, and I would say, there's some people have said it looked like an old man stooped over and moving slow, all gray.
Yeah,
and
that's the one. Yeah,
and
we call him the old man.
My guess would be, I'm guessing like a human type lifespan.
My concern about their long lifespan is you go back 100 years ago, our lifespan was into the 50s.
Right.
With medicine, dental care, medications, better access to healthcare has improved our lifestyle,
Definitely.
and our quality of life. I mean, one bad tooth could kill somebody 120 years ago.
That's right.
So if if these creatures are anything like us, and without healthcare, I don't know about their lifespan. What's the average gray ape is 30 to 40 years. So I think it might be closer to that, but that's all speculation. But I think dental care is our number one thing that has improved our as Homo sapiens, has improved our our lifespan for sure. But there is that gray one that people see in New Hampshire all the time. Between New Hampshire and Massachusetts, I call him the grumpy guy, the grumpy old man, because anytime I think I've encountered him, all he does is yell. He just yells, and it's like your grandfather, shut up, and
Maybe he's got a toothache.
He could have a toothache. But again, it's all speculation, because we don't have the data to back up anything. Conjecture is a great thing when you're an amateur Bigfooter. Of
course. Here's a great one from my buddy Stefan, my college friend. It seems like the overwhelming majority of Massachusetts sightings are in Berkshire County. Have you heard of any in Franklin County or my home of Hampton County? Thanks, guys. Thank you, Stefan, as always.
Dave, you want to take that?
I don't know too many out west in those towns. Just what's been on the BFRO site.
Right. Yeah. So
we have had a couple around there.
The BFRO site is incomplete, because on my investigator page, I have 62 reports that I haven't finished. And again, I'm an analog guy. I've interviewed maybe half of those people. I just haven't gotten around to writing them up. When there's a really good one, we try to get it on there right away, but it takes time. And, time is a precious commodity. I would rather spend my time in the field than sitting behind the computer typing up reports, trying to put all that data together. But it is on my agenda. The most reports are the Berkshires, Leominster State Forest, up where Ronnie LeBlanc does his research, where he wrote his book Monsterland. You have the Bridgewater Triangle, which is where a lot of research has been done. Lauren Coleman coined that term many years ago. There's plenty of activity down there, but the Berkshires, I think, have the least amount population, where they're going to feel safer and they're going to thrive. And that's and then we also have the Quabbin Reservoir, which is where we have numerous sightings. That's where all the water for the greater metropolitan Boston area comes from. There's like 500,000 acres up there, and a lot of it is off limits. So there's quite a few areas that we can't get to. And I think if you wanted to avoid us, that's probably where you would probably go hang out. So anywhere where there's a good chunk of woods, you might have a chance of seeing one of these creatures up here.
I don't see why they wouldn't be out there, because they're west of there and they're east of there. So I think it's all connected. Like John said, there's patches of woods that you could go from the western border all the way to eastern Mass, and it's a lot of thick and swampy areas, especially as you go east. It's goes down in elevation towards the sea. There's a lot more swamps and bogs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't be out there.
You could get to New Hampshire and Vermont easily too. I mean, like you said, there's really no borders, and people, I think, not from New England typically don't know how much woods is actually here. We have so much forest land. It's actually insane.
I can get anywhere in New England on a snowmobile. So a Sasquatch can get anywhere in New England on foot.
Right.
So I can drive right from my house here in Massachusetts all the way to Canada by taking trails. So there's no reason why these creatures can't just, if I was a nomadic ape man, I would follow these trails. I mean, why bushwhack through the woods when you don't have to, right? Just take the trails.
Power lines, trails. That's where some of my stuff has happened. Dax, I mean, he was one of the first people I interviewed when I got into this subject a few years ago, and he's on the channel, and his happened when he was snowmobiling, his really incredible encounter. So definitely.
That was in Vermont. Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
Northern Vermont. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still one of my favorite encounters, even all these years later. Still, like, just really stands out because of the detail he got in there. But Edward asks, where can I get one of those shirts?
Well, unfortunately, the website usually has a store on it. I'm going to get on that. I'm going to get on my webmaster's case because it's been down for too long. It's been down since Cliff was here when we had Cliff's event.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they never plugged my website back on. I have a whole room full of these shirts. So give me a couple of days. You can find, I promise you'll be able to find them on Squatchachusets.com. We, whatever money we make, a few bucks on each shirt, it goes right back into buying equipment. I have some really great thermal imaging equipment. These are about $5,000 a piece. This
Amazing.
is the FLIR Scout Pro. We have 2 of these. We have 6 of the smaller units, and then we have the BFRO roof mounted unit. And it costs a lot of money to maintain these things.
Of course.
There's certainly no money in Bigfooting on an amateur side of things. We're not trying to get rich or anything. I'm probably I'd say about $30,000 of my own money into Bigfoot researching between events and equipment and stuff like that. So I promise we'll have our store up soon. Every time that I see somebody wearing one of our shirts, it just makes me smile. And our stickers, God,
They show up everywhere. I see
they're
them
all over the
time,
world. Remember last year I saw you in the gas station up in
Yeah.
New Hampshire, and I'm like, hey, that's one of my stickers. And I look, and it's you driving the car. We're like way in upstate New Hampshire. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I've seen them like driving around Boston too. A couple times I've seen the stickers, and I'm like always trying to get over to the person to get their attention, be like, "Oh my God, like where'd you get the sticker?"
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I guess this question kind of was answered a little bit, but Daniel's a regular on the show from Brazil. He's always asking some awesome questions. But what would be the squatchiest areas of Massachusetts? Do you go out at night, and if so, do you use flare cameras? You sort of answered that, but I guess what would be the squatchiest area of Massachusetts in your opinion?
That you can go to, I would say the Berkshires, Southern Berkshires, October Mountain State Forest, Northern Berkshires, Savoy and Florida State Forest. Out where Dave researches. Dave, go ahead.
Yep. Oh, Middleborough, Lakeville, all around the Bridgewater Triangle, actually all the way down to Fall River area. Worcester County, it really stretches out. It's really thick. You don't think of it. A lot of people think of the cities. But as soon as you get out of these towns and get on the back roads, it's really, really thick. A lot of spots you just can't get to.
Yeah.
We're thinking about starting to get a lot more drone work down at the triangle because a lot of wetlands you just can't get into.
Yeah, Bill is down there, and Mike go down there with their drones, and it's amazing the amount of terrain you can cover. Google Earth is a fantastic tool for looking for Bigfoot. All you got to do is have to expand it and look for some wooded areas, and that's where you go. Look for the darkest, dankest spot in a state forest, and go take a look over there, because that's probably where something hiding is going to be hiding.
Absolutely. That's actually what I was going to ask you about. One of my questions that I have pre-planned, Dave, was obviously we've been out together down in the Bridgewater area a couple times, and you've kind of been investigating that area. Is there like an encounter that's happened in that part of the state that's been really interesting to you? Just because there are so many reports from the Bridgewater Triangle area?
Yeah, and over a long time, there was a lot of sightings in the 70s. And it seems like in the last few years, it's really got some more. I've talked to a few people that have seen it. Like John was saying, with witnesses, you can kind of rule out when after a couple phone conversations, they're really serious about it and hope you come down, But we have been on a couple that they throw you off. But there was a good one. A couple women on horseback saw it at a place called Betty's Neck. Around Lakeville. That was just a couple years ago. She's been on a couple shows. They both saw it look like a stump when they were coming out of the horse trails right before dusk. And they could see it move. And when they shined the light over, it stood right up and just walked into the woods.
Right.
So there's a lot of good. Another guy had me out right in his backyard. He was in Hanson. It's all through that triangle. Seems like Middleborough's all woods. A lot of old sightings down there. Route 44.
Very swampy too.
Route 44.
You got the cranberry bogs. Yeah. The one issue I see down there though is the development encroaching on all of the wooded areas down there. You know, it's just you look at a picture of the areas, you know, 30 years ago, and you look at them now, it's all big box stores, and anywhere where there was lousy land, they build a mall. And you know, I think that they're getting pushed around a little bit down there. But the Quabbin and the Berkshires, a lot of that land's protected, and I think that's where they tend to hang out the best. You know, if you want to have an encounter, just be nice and go on up there and just walk around and listen, sit down and listen, and pay attention to what's going on around you. I've talked to so many hunters that laugh at us and say, "I've been hunting for 30 years and I've never seen one." Well, they've probably seen you. And, you know, just because you're looking for a deer, you know, and you're not paying attention to what's going on around you is, you know, that's probably why you haven't seen one. I've seen a couple over the past 30 years, and I'm in the woods a lot. So the chances of ever seeing one are really low, but having an encounter such as hearing wood knocks or whistles or having something thrown at you, that, you know, if you put your time in, you might have a pretty cool thing happen to you out there.
Definitely. I had to read this comment. It was just so funny. The only hairy hominids in the Cape in the summer are Yankee fans from the Bronx.
Yeah, we remember we did one out there. We drove all the way down there, and the guy ended up blowing us off by the time we got down there. So we ended up going getting some fish and chips and some lobster rolls. So it wasn't a total loss, you know. And then we had another guy that said that they were in the greater metropolitan Boston area, and I'm like, what's he taking the T? You know, you know, has he got a Charlie card? I don't know. You know, what's he doing in Lynn? You know, yeah. So there are, you know, those Southie girls. Sometimes they're hard to, you know, to interpret as whether they're hairy hominids or not.
I haven't been shaving in a while, maybe.
I did get going back to Chesterfield out at the scout camp. That's one of the spots in the state I think is very squatchy. Like John said, that BFRO group outing with multiple witnesses. I think like 8 or 10 people saw it. Wow. That's the one I couldn't go to, but I did get on another trip. Me and Eric Vogel got a good vocalization at the same camp, Chesterfield. So that's great country.
Yeah, that was when we had Dr. Esteban Sarmiento come along with us, and he was pulling our chain for a couple of days out there making fun of us. But he heard one of the nights he heard a great vocalization, and he goes that was a hominid. He goes that was an ape or something. He goes that was an ape call. And amazing. for him to hear that out in the woods, his whole attitude changed the rest of the weekend.
And he's a primatologist, right?
He's a primatologist. Yeah. He worked at the Museum of Natural History. We've been out squatching with him out in Oregon.
He was attacked by a gorilla, I think. I remember.
Yeah, it dragged him away, and he said, "You just have to let it drag you away." He says it'll bite your fingers off.
It's like the kid in the zoo, Harambe. You know, they had to kill it when he had the kid.
He was distraught over that. He said that he would have crawled in there with the gorilla and gotten the kid away, but he spent 20 years in the Congo with apes, so you know this is. They're very powerful, strong creatures. I wouldn't mess with one.
No.
But he did. We were up in the Siuslaw National Forest with him in Oregon. Remember that, Dave? That was about 5-6 years ago. We drove probably 15 miles into the woods. Thank God I marked our way in because we would have never found our way out. And so dark, one of the quietest forests I've ever been in. You could hear a pin drop. Wow. And out of nowhere in the pitch dark, he lets out a 30-second gorilla mating call that would terrify you. And I mean, we couldn't even look at each other because we couldn't see each other. But I remember going, oh boy, and, you know, like it was just this terrifying. Ooh, 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 ah, and he just went on and on and on. If anybody was camping within a half a mile of there, they would have been packing their camp up and bailing out of there. Yeah. And then he just laughed. He goes, "Let's see if we get a response out of that." But we didn't hear anything, but I'm like, yeah, it's time to go though.
Oh my God.
That was, so we've learned a lot from him.
What a resource.
Yeah, and I can pick up the phone anytime and give him a call. And he loves coming up here, hanging out with us, and we're hoping to get him up here again soon. Because it's nice having members of the scientific community that embrace our amateur research up here. We're doing the field work that they don't have time to do or that they don't really want to do. So, hey, if I can present my evidence to the scientific community and say, here, this is all I have, but here, this might solve one little piece of that puzzle. Well, then I contributed to that, to the cause. We're not out here to try to solve the giant mystery. I don't think it might never be solved. But we're just trying to enjoy ourselves and contribute as much as we can to the community. Dave, are you all right there? Was there an earthquake in Lowell? Okay.
Nope, my dad, yeah.
So here's a good question from Joshua Ernest, who's a friend of ours. He actually was with me when we experienced some stuff in the video I posted a couple weeks ago with the wood knocks and the stuff up in the area that Dave, that you've been into. I won't mention the town in southern New Hampshire, but I've had stuff happen to me recently in that area. Josh is a great guy, but he asked, what are your go-to tactics when in the woods trying to elicit a response or have an experience?
Asking me?
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
My more lately, I've been doing. I think Josh, hi Josh, by the way, when you were up with us on the east side of the Quabbin and we got a tree pushed over last time. I think more now. I think I yelled like a person and got that, but I don't do as much as I used to do. I used to do I do a lot more sitting now and listening and just trying to be natural. We've throwing stuff against the wall for years, like do this. A lot of times it's what you don't do. And a lot of the vocalizations we get lately, when you just get there and get out of the cars before you even do anything, if you just shut the doors lightly and listen, you sometimes get that first, in my opinion, it's an alert to other ones that, the humans are here.
For sure. That's happened plenty of times to us. Show's over. They know we're here. Yeah.
A lot more listening now, though.
Dave and I like to do a curiosity factor. We'll sit, we'll go somewhere and we'll just sit, put some chairs out and maybe start a small fire. Or sometimes I'll put classical music on my phone and just play that for 10 or 15 minutes and create a curiosity factor. Try to, if I'm alone out in the woods, a hairy hominid bored out of my mind, what's that pleasant sound? I might come over and take a look. And, wood knocking, all you're going to really do with wood knocking is let them know that you're there if they don't already know that you're there. And you might get a wood knock back, but then that's the end of the show. And, I've heard enough wood knocks that I know what a wood knock sounds like. And I'm kind of past the wood knocks. I want to get one to come over and see what we're up to. Jeff Shepard is a fantastic researcher. You've met Jeff, I'm sure, haven't you, Alexander?
I don't think I've met him. I'm friends with him, but I know he's been in the same area that I've had my stuff.
Right. So he does a lot of BFRO work up in Maine. He goes on these 5-6 hour trips way up to Maine. And he also does some stuff with Crystal in New Hampshire. Yeah. But we do a lot of stuff with him in Massachusetts too. He likes to stand back on his own and watch us to see if we're being watched. And he has quite a bit of luck with that. So we'll be creating like the curiosity factor, whether we're just chit-chatting or sitting around a fire, and he'll be in the distance watching us to see if we're being watched. And at one of the outings, the BFRO outings, he was between us and what he felt was a Sasquatch watching us. He saw it leaning on something and its arm dangling down, and it was watching us while he was watching it. And he couldn't get my attention because I had the only FLIR at the time. And I'm just sitting around the campfire enjoying myself. And here there was a Sasquatch that we think was right in between us. So... And I've really had good luck with the classical music. They don't like Led Zeppelin. It's a little aggressive for them. Anything like Mozart or, Beethoven, anything like that. I just put it on for 10 or 15 minutes through my little speaker. And a lot of times we'll get a 2 or 3 wood knocks, like knock, knock, knock. Like, hey, we like that, Sometimes we'll get a whoop. Nothing like a good whoop. because
Right.
it's just a whoop. You're like, yeah, I know what that was, and then that might be it. What's
Sorry,
that mean?
John.
No, go ahead.
No, after you're done.
So yeah, I like the curiosity factor thing. Wood knocks are great. If you've never heard one, sure, go ahead. You might get one back. Could be another squatcher.
Right.
So that's why it's good to coordinate your efforts. So come on out with us, and we'll be able to tell you if there's other people up there or not. Well, hopefully, because nothing sillier than knocking between two researchers who don't know each other up there. I heard a wood knock last night. Then so did I. Where were you? Oh, we were in Savoy. Oh, that was you guys. Right. So.
That's good. It's a good way to determine what happened, though. At least you get kind of a little bit of a closure on that, so to speak. What do you guys think? We'll take a couple more questions. How does that sound?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, man.
Sure.
So this one is for John. Says, John, will you start gifting again to lure them back?
I have tried, and I have no indication that anything has been around here in a while. I'll get an occasional wood knock from a far away that I feel is a wood knock, but I had not had any indication that they've been around here in a while. I would love to try to stimulate that again. I don't even know how to begin to do that. I think whatever I did, I upset them or discouraged them from coming around. And I really think that I had a great opportunity here and I blew it. And, lesson learned as an amateur scientist, citizen scientist. I wasn't using proper protocols to document, and I didn't even realize what I had until it was already gone, which is pretty typical of my life. So these are good questions, though. Thanks. I hope everybody is enjoying us here. Dave and I have really enjoyed what we've done doing over the years, and we encourage anybody to come along with us on our little quest here. For sure.
Seriously, some of the best guys in it. Like, no problem saying that at all. Now, let's close out with this question. I think both of you guys can answer this one. Do you have any story from a witness that was particularly interesting? Both of you guys, since you've obviously researched different areas also, do you have one from Western Mass, John? And then maybe Dave can share one that's from out more towards the Bridgewater area?
Sure. Dave and I interviewed a school teacher up in the Berkshires, the northern Berkshires, who was walking her dog. I think it was going to be 3 years ago now. And it was a mile from where there was another sighting with an elderly couple that were driving their car, which was about 2 miles from another sighting. So there was 3 sightings within like this 5 square mile area. And this woman, she's highly educated, very articulate with her description, and never thought about Bigfoot before, never even gave it a second thought, never seen any shows about it. And it was her kids that encouraged her to reach out to us. And I thought her story was one of the most compelling. And then there was the one at the Quabbin, in the southern Quabbin, that it's on our Squatchachusets page. There's a video of these 2 fishermen that were fly fishing at 10 o'clock at night and watched it come down through the water. They were up to their waist. And we looked into their background and everything. We really investigated these guys, and turns out one of the kids knew somebody else, so we were able to to put the whole story together. That's one of my other favorite encounters up there. Dave's got some great ones from other places too. Yeah,
one I did it was published on the BFI road page from Hanson, Mass. That's down in the Triangle. It was a clear daylight sighting, actually, Saturday afternoon. Very credible witness. The guy worked for the Courier newspaper down there, Patriot Ledger, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
And he wouldn't report it till after he retired. Once he retired,
wow,
he shared it. He didn't want nothing to do with it, but he took me right to the spot where across the road, he got out right where it, and I stood in the spot. So it was, I want to say 40 yards. Clear as day, walked right out into the road, and as it was looking at him, there was a car coming the other way that actually he thinks it clipped it, and the arms went up in the air, and that thing just ran into the woods and took off. But he's like, it couldn't have been anything else. He said it was just big, hairy, 2 steps. It was across the road pretty much, and it stopped in the middle. 1 step stopped in the middle. the thing happened. He thinks it got brushed, and as that cow went by, he just said it. 2 strides, it was up in the woods and gone. And he swore
that was
to
a good
it.
one.
He was like, he was happy to get it off his chest. Like someone
Yeah.
actually, I remember when I called him, he called me back the next day, like told me more about it. He goes, the more I think about this, it's I want to share it, because he's actually moved down to Virginia now, so he's gone now, but he wanted it known, like reported in Mass, and that was Hanson, Mass, right before you get into Bridgewater.
Right. Wow.
I'm not sure of the route, but
A lot of
there's
people,
been a few good ones down there.
a lot of people feel better when they tell their story, and I can appreciate that because, you know, I had a couple of interesting encounters that I really couldn't talk about either. It's a stressful event. I have a little game that I play sometimes. Whenever you're in a room full of people, bring up the subject of Bigfoot. Somebody in that room has a story for you. I can almost guarantee it. They either heard of a story or they know of a story. And it just happened to me this past weekend. I ran into a federal employee up in the White Mountains, and he's going to be in touch with me about some stuff, and it's pretty cool. It's a great thing to talk about. Yes, you're going to get belittled. There's always that jerk in the room that's going to put you down, whatever. And to them, I say, what can you expect from a non-believer? You know, what can you, Cliff taught me a good thing to say too. Oh, please, sir, tell me what you know about Sasquatch. What's the last Sasquatch book you read, sir? You know, then we can start from there and move forward, you know, and then usually we can destroy him on that. And, you know, but that's not our goal, you know.
No.
My goal though is to send everybody on here a free Squatchachusetts sticker. So send me an email through squatchachusets.com or through Facebook, and I will send you one of our famous Sasquatch stickers for free as a gift from everybody here at Squatchachusetts.
Link is below, guys, if you'd like that. Yeah, spread the word. Daniel said, I can send you some great Brazilian folk music. It will surely elicit some responses from the big fella.
we accept all forms of music.
Awesome.
Actually, we've had some good success a couple times. We've just sat out and played music late night, and we got some really good vocalizations.
For sure.
Out at the, and it's right after you stop playing. So I think they check out of curiosity and watch, because it wasn't long after we stopped playing, we all left the beach, and within 20 minutes, Eric Vogel was with me. We got a really good vocalization.
Wow.
And it came right from where we just came from, and we knew we were the last ones to leave. We stayed down there till everyone left, and as soon as we got up the hill, and within 10 minutes, a nice like a man yelling from where we came from. And we know we were the last ones that just come up. So that was a good one.
Yeah, that was going. I've been really enjoying talking here and just reflecting on all of the experiences we've had over the years. And there's just when you think of one, there's 2 more. And I can't thank enough to my good friend there, Dave McCullough, for taking me on this journey of it's been you know, I could think of a lot worse things to be doing with my time. And we've had a blast. We've been all over the country. We've made some fantastic friends, and you want a really interesting hobby, come on along in our journey with us, because we're having a great time.
No doubt about that. I just want to read this comment from Bomber, who said, John, I wish I had your courage. I'm not afraid of much, but bringing up the topic and especially my experience is a real issue for me. And that happens a lot of times with these sorts of things.
I'm past it. You know, I've been laughed at. I've been, you know, whatever. And that doesn't matter to me in the scheme of things, because, you know, what's important to me is that we keep having a good time. And anytime Dave comes up, and, you know, it's a little bit of a drive for him to come out here, it's always a fun time. We're looking for new friends all the time. And Alexander, we look to, you know, forward to getting together with you in a couple of weeks there on that other project we got going.
Very excited. I always have a good time with you guys, and it's always great. And I got to read this one because my buddy Stefan, great show. Massachusetts is greater than or equal to New Hampshire.
You bet your butt it is. Squatchachusetts is far superior to New Hampshire. I mean, you know, come on.
I will admit I do have the sticker, the Squatchachusetts sticker on my car. So
we got a much better accent here.
Definitely. I am always repping you guys wherever I go. So any other projects you guys have coming up aside from any of the research or stuff over the summer now that things are sort of getting back?
It's been difficult because you don't want to really spend time with people that you're not around on a regular basis. Nobody wants to get sick or make somebody else sick. And I just got done with recovering from surgery, my shoulder redone. We were going to do Squatchtoberfest, had to put this kibosh to that. Maybe next year. I just can't responsibly put together an event right now with the unknown viruses that are out there. And, we don't want any Bigfoot looting of the Walmart or anything like that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been really awesome. Here's Squatch, New Hampshire. That just doesn't sound right. Yeah.
No,
okay.
It doesn't.
Okay, Stefan, we get it. Rub it in our face.
I like this guy. I'll send me your address. I'll send you a free T-shirt.
He's one of my best buddies. Met him. He was my roommate throughout college.
Oh, terrific.
Great guy. I was just talking to him earlier today, but I got to get him out to my spot there in New Hampshire and hopefully have something happen. But it's been really awesome having you guys on the show. You guys are phenomenal, as I've said before. Guys, check out the links below. I put the Facebook link in there as well for the group.
Cool,
and
I'm
if
sorry,
you're
the
in the
website is just awful. The website's just terrible. I'm sorry. I got to do something about that.
Yeah, and if you're in New
Anybody
England,
want to do some website stuff? Give me a call. And, anyone in New England, please go up and see our friend Lauren Coleman at the International Cryptozoology Museum in Portland, Maine. You won't be disappointed. They need your support, especially now more than ever. They're struggling. They're a nonprofit organization. They need those funds to survive, even using the store. I just want to get a plug into Lauren and give him the props that he deserves. He's one of the original cryptozoologists out there, and he's really been instrumental to us growing as researchers. And I wanted to thank him for that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I had him on show 3, I believe. So if you guys want to go watch the episode, there's a link below in that description where you can go and actually donate right to the museum. So if you can't make it up there because they're just reopening, travel and everything is kind of iffy. If you want to throw them a couple bucks, I'm sure they'd appreciate everything. And they have awesome stuff in the store, too.
There's some great stuff up there. They even sell Squatchachusetts swag up there.
Yeah, they do. I'll get some great comments here. Just ending on this note, watching John and Dave is like meeting old friends. Very genuine, very down-to-earth guys. I wish you the best. Thank you, Daniel. A great fan from Brazil. He's on every week. We appreciate all the comments. And Josh here saying, Mr. Ernest here. Great episode, you guys. Hope to meet you soon. Awesome. Oh, Mrs. Ernest here. Oh, excuse me. I misread that. Oh, congratulations, Josh. I forgot to, he was just asking me about some hiking recently, and I forgot to congratulate him on that. But all right, guys. Thank you so much again. And yeah, and I can't wait to see you guys soon.
Yeah, till we meet again.
Yeah, see you guys in a couple weeks then.
Okay, take care.
And
bye,
to everybody. Yeah,
Thank
you guys so much for your questions. We'll see you next week. Next week will be Cliff Barrickman, so definitely bring some questions for that. We'll be talking his museum, the show, all kinds of stuff. So until next week, guys, everybody have a great week, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.